Good evening, grade 8 families, class of 2024. For those of you who have not met me, my name's Sarah Golding. I'm the 8th grade team leader.
And my name is Beth Amaral. I'm the assistant principal this year. And this is my 5th year actually at West Rocks. And I think Miss Golding and I have been doing a trip on year 3 now. So I'm very involved in the 8th grade this year and years prior. We're here this evening to go over a couple of things. First, it's important for you to know that we did meet with all of the 8th grade students in school today. We had a grade 8 class meeting. During that time, we went over some expectations that we have had throughout this school year. It was a little bit of a refresher and a reset for our students. So we're going to share with you the same information that the students got in school today in hopes that you can reinforce and really review some of these things with your students at home. And as things pop up, obviously, we have been trying to be very vigilant in contacting families as soon as possible and really trying to work together with you, because we have found that the most success that we have is when we can get families involved in, the good, the bad, and all that other stuff too. So Ms. Golding is going to go through some slides on expectations and behaviors. And then really the tail end of this broadcast is really around some trips and some activities that we have planned for the rest of the school year. Obviously, things may come up and change along the way, but this is kind of our preliminary plans as of today. Again, this morning when we met with the students, we just reviewed our cell phone expectations. This has not changed. Every family got this communication over the summer, and we've really been reviewing, reinforcing, reminding students that the expectation at school is that all cell phones are in lockers. And whenever a student is found to have a cell phone, an adult is to ask for it, and it is turned into the main office where Miss Golding or myself call the parent for the parent to come and pick it up. That has not changed from the first day of school. I did share with the students that the first couple of weeks, we were taking 10 to 12 phones a day. And I believe we're down to maybe 1 or 2 a day. Our goal is really to be at 0 for an extended amount of time. So we continue to be very vigilant. We have seen a remarkable difference in class and in the hallways since we've instituted the no cell phone policy. The other thing that we did talk about with the students today is the expectation around lunch. Each class has been checking in with their teacher prior to coming down to the cafeteria for lunch. The expectation is that the students are transitioning from their related arts or world language class. They're going to go to their locker. They get the belongings that they need for the class and lunch, and then they actually physically go to that classroom, and the teacher is taking attendance before the kids go to lunch. The teacher is walking the students to the cafeteria, and then that same teacher picks up the students from recess outside. We are finding that there is a pocket of students that just are not checking in with their teacher, and they were walking to the cafeteria on their own. And the teacher often wasn't sure whether or not the student had made it to the cafeteria. Where exactly were they? Same when it was time to line up at recess. They were in somebody else's line. They're hanging out with their friends. They're not getting to their class on time. So this was just an opportunity for us to remind the students that the expectation is that the students are going to their class. They're checking in with their teacher. The attendance is being taken, and they're going to walk with their class and their teacher down to the cafeteria. In addition, backpacks have not been allowed this year. All students are expected to use their locker. Every student has a locker. I have been working with homeroom teachers in changing or modifying any locker assignments if there's a locker that's broken or if a child is having some difficulty with their lockers. But we have started to see an uptick in the last 2 weeks of some students who are walking around with their backpacks. So again, the expectation is that backpacks are put in the locker when the students arrive. That all happens right before homeroom, and then all of the belongings stay in their locker. Students have multiple opportunities to go to their locker during the day. So anytime a student needs to get something for their next class, they have that opportunity during transitions to get their belongings, and then just leave everything else in their locker. The idea is very similar to the cell phone. We want to minimize distractions. A lot of kids were bringing in snacks in there. That's where they keep their phones. So no backpacks has been our rule, and we're going to continue to reinforce and remind students to go to their locker when we see that. In addition, I just did mention the food. We are also seeing that there is a group of students that likes to come in the morning with their Dunkin' Donuts coffee or their Starbucks drink, and then and other food items, which is fine. But we're telling students that all breakfast items need to be eaten during homeroom. Some students are walking around with their Dunkin' Donuts coffee for 2-3 hours. That really becomes a multitude of concerns, spilling in the hallway, distraction. So all food must be consumed in homeroom if it's for breakfast. Parents, if you are bringing lunch for your child, you're going to leave it at the security desk with your child's name, and we will get that to that student during their lunch time. We don't call kids down to get their lunch earlier. When they come down, the security or secretaries know to look for those kids in the cafeteria or as they're walking in, and they know to get their lunch, and they'll go to the cafeteria and eat that. We really are trying to curb students having what they think is snack time throughout the day, sharing chips, Takis, candy, cookies, you name it, really just becomes another reason for a distraction. And we really are reminding kids that in 8th grade, we're getting ready for high school, and those types of behaviors and expectations are the same ones that they're going to encounter going forward. And I think we landed at this as probably our favorite slide, because our expectations are our expectations. We're not negotiating. We're not, having conversations about what's expected. That's the very reason why we spent about 45 minutes this morning going through every single one of these. These were directly related to incidents that we've been seeing in the last 2-3 weeks. And it's really just an opportunity to kind of hit reset. But going forward, what was communicated this morning to the kids, and I'm communicating this to you as families, is that going forward, the expectations will be strongly enforced. We've kind of, at the end of October, we have about another week or so of this marking period. We're 25% through 8th grade, and things need to keep rolling in a positive direction. And that really depends on us being very consistent, and we're not negotiating with what we expect of all of our students.
Our class of 2024 is dependent on us working together to hold some fundraising over the course of the year. I've modeled our class structure similar to what the high schools have for their freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior classes. Those of you who have older children or have remember it from your own days, each class kind of does their own fundraising. Those funds go towards offsetting costs personally for students and holding events for the class as a whole. We do spend a big chunk of our June holding various events to support and celebrate our 8th grade. That includes promotion, our pre-promotion party, our promotion breakfast, a lot of those things. And we really rely on these funds to support those events and also help offer scholarship opportunities for students. There are also going to be a set of individual fundraisers, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And those are offered to families to offset those personal costs. So when a fee is associated with a field trip, there's always usually a fundraiser that coincides with that. And those profits from that fundraiser can be applied directly to those personal costs. We are actually holding our first fundraiser. We're selling hooded sweatshirts. The front shows the West Rocks logo. The back says class of 2024. You can see from our screen that we sold 16. That was actually from 2 days ago. It's above 20 now. We do need 48 items to sell in order to print. What has been wonderful is that $120 raised was just through donations alone. The site offers you the opportunity to not only purchase the item, but add any additional amount as a donation. If we sell 48 items, we automatically are making a profit in close to $600, and that's not including those miscellaneous donations. So it's a great fundraiser to get us up and running. Every middle school student wears a hoodie at least every day or every other day. And I know that families are spending more than $40 on some of them, depending on the brand or the label. So this goes to a really good cause. And as a side note, Mrs. Amaral and I last year on the Boston trip saw a lot of schools around us that had this type of item that many of the kids had. And it was great to see all of them not only expressing their pride in their school, but it's also a great thing in public when the kids have the same outfit on and you can pinpoint who is who. So support us. This link has been emailed out on Parent Square. It's also on the 8th grade Google Classroom.
Can I just interject something for a second, Ms. Golding, regarding the sweatshirts? We did also share with the kids that if they would like for us to purchase one for them for whatever reason, if you don't have a credit card or if it's hard to get on the link, they can bring in $43 cash or check. We will be happy to put in an order for them or for your family, just to support. It is $43 with the whole shipping and handling. But we are happy to support. If that's something you're interested in, you can reach out to either one of us and we can make sure we put an order in for you.
The highlight of our meeting this morning was probably talking about the Boston trip. I will be transparent and say that our explanation and our the information we gave students was very brief because we did focus on those expectations. So I promise tonight, if you're tuning in from home or watching this at a later point in time, we're going to get a little more in depth about the trip and the costs and things like that. But before we do that, I always have said this in the past. Ms. Amaral said this to the students today. We're going to talk about things and trips and experiences in the next portion of the meeting that have costs associated with them, but at no time should that cost prevent any student from getting to experience any of the things we're talking about. If your family needs financial aid, if your child wants to go on and it's just something your family can't work out at this point in time, we are flexible. We work with families. Every student should have the opportunity to experience any of these trips or events, regardless of their financial situation. So again, reach out to Mrs. Amaral or myself. Mr. Petropoulos is also helping with the trip. A lot of us have resources. The PTA is super supportive of offering some scholarships too. Like I said, those extra restaurant fundraisers, which we're going to talk about, those also bring in some extra profits that do give us opportunities to help those who need it get to experience these things. Our Boston trip, historically, this is our second year. It aligns pretty much perfectly to the 8th grade social studies curriculum. 8th grade social studies spends the year starting with very early times and going throughout most of American history. If you know anything about the city of Boston, it's one of the oldest cities and has many historical landmarks that are wonderful to visit, including the Freedom Trail and Bunker Hill, which is a part of that. Many sites that were historical, whether it was battles or events took place there. We visit some museums that are dedicated to doing some reenactment of items of different events. And then one highlight of everyone's trip is that even if you're not a Red Sox fan, we do visit Fenway Park. And if you know anything about baseball, it's, I think, one of the oldest Major League Baseball stadiums in the country. I had never been there myself until last year, and it was very fascinating to learn about the historical things that happened there or were referenced that really some don't even have much to do with baseball. So really, really cool thing. They have original seating. They take you up to the Green Monster. I mean, most of us at $1,000 a ticket would never sit there in a game. So it's a very unique experience. And like Ms. Zamaral and I were talking, we experience some things that many families or just the average person don't get access to because we're traveling in such a large group with a school. We use a company that has different advantages that we don't. So there's a lot of unique experiences on this trip that students wouldn't get necessarily if traveling alone or with a family. We do leave April 25th. It is a Thursday. We leave, students have to be to school bright and early. By bright and early, it's 5:30 a.m. because we roll out of Norwalk at 6 a.m. It's about a 3-hour drive. And the reason for that is we want a full day in Boston to see and do our excursions. So we get there around 9. Last year we got there around 9:30 a.m. We spent time going to museums and doing fun things. We had dinner, which was included. We had a night activity. This year we're going to a place called View Boston, and that is at the top of the Prudential Center. And it's a very it's brand new, but it's similar to like One World Trade in the fact that it's one of the highest points in the city. You get to see there's history of Boston there. Very cool experience for that. And then staying at a hotel. The next day, we continue visiting those historical sites. Last year, day 2 included the Red Sox tour. And then we head home about 3 o'clock, and we're due back in Norwalk around between 6 and 7 p.m. So it is 2 days full of activities and excursions. And never a dull moment, not a minute of downtime, anything to occur that's not on the itinerary.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you can I just interject? If you haven't been to Boston, they really do history very well. Each of the different locations we go to, there's just reenactments, and they have people there that really make history come alive for our kids. So even some of our students that I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work out, they were just so engaged and they were really into some of the experiences. So we highly recommend it. It would be amazing if we could take most or all of our 8th grade. So that would be our goal. And we, like Miss Golding, and we're going to keep saying it throughout this entire broadcast, that any of the events or activities we have planned, that finances should never be the reason why a student doesn't participate. We have enough resources with our community, with families, with our PTA, with fundraising, so that every student has the opportunity and they have access to participate in all of these activities that we're planning for them.
This is sort of a quick overview of some of the itinerary. If you register your child to go on the trip, we do have a meeting about a month prior to the trip where we really solidify the itinerary and talk through things. The cost is $400. I do want to take a minute to explain how that number is reached. You could see the tour of Fenway, the Boston Tea Party Museum, which, by the way, is a highlight of the trip because that's where some of the reenactment happens. They have costumes. It's engaging. Kids get to toss what looks like crates of tea over into the water. It's a lot of fun. The View Boston, the Freedom Trail, we have a costume guide there. All of those attractions run anywhere from $25 to $35 per person. And when you add up that we go to 4 or 5 of them, that is a factor in the cost. What is unbeknownst to many people, the price of a coach bus is outstanding. To give you a little perspective, I said this to a parent earlier. 7th grade left this morning for Nature's Classroom. They took some coach buses from West Rocks to Nature's Classroom, just the ride up, and they were picking them up there Friday afternoon and just coming back. And the bus bill for that was $8,000. And that's just literally like driving there and driving home. Our buses for this trip, not only do they drive us there, they stay with us for the entire trip. They get us from Fenway Park to the Boston Tea Party Museum to View Boston. They're there transporting us between those attractions. And we have 2 wonderful drivers that we have been with us every trip they come, they like love that it's West Rocks and want to drive for us. And they're with us the entire time too. So then also an associated cost is that we are responsible for paying for their hotel rooms and some of their personal expenses. So that factors in. And when all is said and done, the bus bill for this trip is close to $20,000. And last year we took 100 students, and the trip was actually 420 last year. It's a little less this year. But when you factor $400 times 100, and then that's $40,000, and just half of that alone is the bus, is sort of an eye-opening number to hear. So we just want to be transparent and have you understand like where that's coming from. And when I first started teaching years ago, I've done these kind of trips for my whole career. The cost of a bus was nowhere near where it is now, and gas, and there's a million reasons why, inflation. But that's the biggest cost we have. We're also renting. Last year we had 28 hotel rooms at about $200 a piece. The $400 price is also including their meals. If you're like me and you go out with your family, it's easily hundreds of dollars to have 5 or 6 people eat out at a restaurant these days. We have a tour guide with us. We hire security at the hotel that helps us supervise overnight. They stay up for the entire evening. In the hotel, we have a floor where the females have all their rooms, and a floor above that's separate with the male rooms. And we have a security guard that sits in each room and just does laps back and forth while the teachers are also sleeping. So it's that extra sense of security and supervision that we can provide to students and families. We also last year did t-shirts for everyone. So there was one day where we all wore the same shirt. It actually, Mrs. Amaral has it on right now. It's one of our favorites. And it's great because the kids wear it during the trip and then they wear it after, and it's sort of like a keepsake from the event as well. So those are just some costs associated with it. Like I said, it just starts to add up over time. We don't make a profit from it. It's really what we collect is the bill we pay the tour company. The extra scholarships and things that we offer come from, like I said, our fundraisers, the PTA, and things like that. If you wish to, and you have the means to support another student or make a contribution, that is always appreciated, but never expected. The photos on the bottom here, bottom left corner, is Quincy Market. We do spend some time there doing some shopping. So the only time, I think really the only time the students need to bring any spending money is if they wish to purchase souvenirs. And students really were able to do that at Quincy Market. And they had a lot of items that were actually pretty affordable. The middle picture is Fenway Park, Fenway Stadium. The green monster is that green wall in the back. And then the bottom right-hand corner is that Tea Party Museum. It's actually built on like stilts in the middle of the river. And I can't even explain it because I don't want to give it away too, but there's so many things inside that little red building that are interactive. And when you walk in, you're transported into like 1700 and something. And you're actually a person who is living the current, the British are coming and we're going to dump tea. And it's actually very cool and exciting. It was the last thing we did last year before we left to come back to Norwalk. And I have to say, hands down, everybody was like, oh, we wish we did this first, because it was like, I thought to myself going and I said, I don't know, everyone's so tired. I don't know if this is going to be a thing. And it was the highlight of everyone's trip. So super excited to return there. I actually requested it to be one of our first stops. So very, very cool place to be. Like I said, there's so many costs associated with that. I could spend time going through the packet. I will switch my tab really quick for 1 second. This document or this packet was the packet that went home with students today. It's a letter. It explains the cost of the trip. It explains how to register. So we are asking for a deposit by December 1st. By the time we return from Christmas break, so the beginning of January, I do have to give the tour company that final count, because It seems far in advance, but they can only reserve hotel rooms and things like that for a certain period of time. So we don't have a huge window of registration, and we really can't take last minute ones. So if your child is interested, we really kind of need to know at least by Christmas break at the latest. Um, we're asking for a deposit of $100, but that is flexible. If you can want to put a $50 deposit down, whatever works best for you, we can work with each family. But we can put a payment plan in place where the remaining $300 is due over time in January, February, and March. And then any fundraiser, and last year there were two of them. They were held during those payment times, and those profits from the fundraiser could be put towards the trip in lieu of making that month's payment. We did a Krispy Kreme last year, which is super profitable amongst families. And for some reason, like, people go crazy for those donuts. I personally don't see the appeal, but it is a big thing around here because I guess there's not one locally. Ours actually come from the Bronx. And then we did a popcorn online that we just actually did with seventh grade. Full disclosure, we had 3 or 4 seventh grade students who participated in the popcorn fundraiser for Nature's Classroom and fundraised the entire cost of the trip. This year, Nature's Classroom was $350. They sold over $700 worth of popcorn, got a 50% profit, and the family had a 0 out of pocket cost for the trip. So a really awesome opportunity, and we really encourage families to take advantage of that. If your child is interested in attending, there is a off-white or cream-colored registration form in the back of the packet. It is this last couple pages here. This is what will get returned to us, filled out. If you need or are requesting financial aid, we ask that you check that box that lets us know, and then we will meet with those families individually to discuss how we could support. The trip must be paid in full by March 1st. Please include your child's shirt size. That's important when we pre-order those shirts. And then this here is just sort of like you've read through the packet. We have some academic expectations in order to attend the trip, and we will allow cell phones because the students are away from home, but we do have a very similar policy in terms of closely aligned to the school day. Because these days your phone is also your camera. We want students to take pictures, enjoy, text you, call you, tell you what a great time they're having. But there's going to be places where, like the Tea Party Museum, they did not allow us to have the phones. So we just have this cell phone policy in place here. I could say, going on many trips now, we've never had a problem with cell phones. I don't foresee it. What I do tell families is, though, if something gets lost, stolen, broken, whatever, the school is not responsible for any damage to personal belongings. There's a page here about some hotel rules. Like I said, females are on one floor, males are on the other. At no point in time are you allowed in anyone else's room, even if they are of the same gender. We are really in the hotel, I tell the kids this, to sleep and eat breakfast the next morning and shower, because that's always a plus when we take a shower. We do not visit the pool, the gym, or any of the amenities of the hotel. I'm really not going to read through that, but just understand that there's specific hotel expectations in place. And then per the middle school handbook, the same rules apply. Our code of conduct remains intact, even though we're not on school property. A field trip such as this is an extension of the school day so that all school rules and expectations apply. Silver Mill Travel is who we use. This is sort of what they give me. This gives you a better idea of the price breakdown. Gratuities for the driver. We have a tour director. We have driver's rooms. It should be plural because there's 2. Our tour director has a hotel room. So there's things that we don't normally think about, but are factored into that cost. There is earlier, I know I'm skipping around, so I apologize, some things about what students need and more about what the price includes. And then there is more about medications and such, but those are the things I really don't get into until we get closer to the trip. So again, read through that packet. If there's anything that draws a question, feel free to reach out to Mrs. Amaral, myself, Mr. Petropoulos. Both of our emails are down there. We can set up a time to chat with you on the phone, a meeting, or anything to answer those questions. I do see a note in the chat. Are there parent chaperones? Last year, we took 100 students, and the Board of Ed requires us to follow a 10-to-1 ratio. So that means 10 students to every one chaperone. And we have 10 teachers that go every year. In the event that we have more than 100 students interested this year, there may be a point where we reach out for parent chaperones. I cannot guarantee that until registration is complete. But at that point, if you would be interested in being a chaperone, you would have to follow the Board of Ed's policy with being fingerprinted. And there's this just a procedure that you have to go to be a verified volunteer with the school system. So if that happens, I will reach out and send a note out to families and then take parents. One year we did take parents, but we ended up doing a lottery because there was more parents interested than what we needed. So more information to come to that probably after the holidays about if we could use some extra help. I'm going to switch back here to our presentation. A new thing for this year that is not happening with Boston, but is actually happening at the end of May is our 8th grade picnic. We're working with Quasi Amusement Park in Middlebury, Connecticut to host a day where West Rocks has free reign of the park. That $50 price includes rides, the water park, all you can eat food buffet, and bus transportation. Oh, I hear a friend coming. Miss Amaral, would you continue from this point about the trip and
absolutely. I'll let you be a mom for a second. So we had talked about that because Boston does become a $400 trip, and sometimes the overnight could be scary or daunting for some of our students or families. We also wanted to provide another activity or trip that the kids could really spend some time together, and kind of a nice culmination of our 8th grade. Just another fun event or activity before the kids finish up at West Rocks and before we get into the craziness of promotion. So Ms. Golding has reached out to Quasi. They have kind of put up this promotional price for us. It's actually quite a deal. And the kids would be able to spend the entire day there. We'll go up for the day, weather permitting, the water park. And then they just really get to hang out. We would bring our teachers, obviously. And this is another one of those opportunities where the students kind of just get to be off campus and really just spend some more time together. We really try to put in a lot of incentives for our 8th grade, because staying motivated throughout the entire year, and then as the year starts winding down, we start getting ready for promotion. It is just kind of a nice way for kids to kind of spend some time out of school. It's just another one of those just fun things that we want to promote community, and the kids really just enjoy spending time with each other. Again, this is really another one of those trips are a privilege, not a right, because kids need to know that our expectations are expectations, and these are opportunities for us to reward them. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. And we build them in on purpose for that reason.
I apologize. I'm back. If you didn't know, I do have 3 small boys, so there's a 33% chance that someone's going to barge in at any point in time. I don't know if Mrs. Amaral said this, but I just wanted to make you aware that any of those fundraisers that are offered for the Boston trip are not necessarily for the Boston trip. They're for trips in general. So my plan this year is any fundraising that you do almost starts like a bank account in our system for your child. Those profits add up and they can be applied to the Boston trip and or that Quasi trip later on. So like again, encourage participation. So many people do want to help out. For example, the $50 fee for Quasi, I told students today, if you sold 5 boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts to family and friends, you would pay for the entire trip to go to Quasi. So not a difficult thing. I know when that comes up, it's going to be actually probably the end of November. If you work in an office or you work in a place, I have family that brings that order form there, and the orders come in so quickly. We also get them delivered first thing in the morning. They're warm, they're fresh. The aroma is appealing, and then we have families come and pick them up during the school day to bring them back to their jobs or to deliver. It's actually, we've done it. I think this is my fourth or fifth year. A couple years we had to rent a U-Haul because we had so many orders. It's a great thing, and it is probably one of the most profitable fundraisers we've ever done. So again, take advantage of those because they really do offset your personal costs. And I know, and I always apologize that we always are doing this around the time of the holidays and things, but just be mindful that we'll work with you if you just reach out. As a side note too, Sportathon is happening right now. This is my little plug. Eighth grade is probably the group of students in the school that benefits the most from those fundraising events as well. That general school-wide fundraiser, some of those funds get split between the grade levels. And since eighth grade does have a few more events, we do offer some scholarship from those funds. So if you can participate or just send in the $10 or do what you can to help our Sportathon, that also will have an impact on eighth grade this year.
Ms. Golding, there is a question regarding phones at Quasi, and the short answer is yes. So as the year winds down and we have these different activities, then we will offer students the opportunity to use their phones. Again, because we know that you'll want to take pictures, you want to spend time with your friends. So it's meant to be a fun day. So phones would be allowed for the Quasi trip.
Promotion is our last thing we're going to talk about before we wrap up. For a lot of parents, they hear promotion, and I think it might be confusing at the beginning. That's what we call eighth grade graduation, but we don't use the word graduation. We save that for high school. So we're promoting you to high school where you're moving on. We have a pre-promotion party the week before. Last year, that was at the school. We had a barbecue. We actually had to move it indoors because it was during that smoky time with the wildfires, but it ended up being amazing anyway. We had a photo booth where kids got their images. We had games. We had mini golf, ice cream sundae bar. It was such a fun night. It cost a lot of money to put on, but it didn't cost students anything to come and attend because of the class's efforts to fundraise. Last year's group worked really hard. We had a fundraiser at restaurants each month. Those, in addition, we also run concessions at basketball games at school. We ask for donations from families of Gatorade, water, candy. We sell those. Those profits go into that. So we were able to really put on a great night for our kids. Again, this is just my reach out. We need everybody's help. Participate in those fundraisers. Help when we ask for donations if you can. These events cannot happen if we don't work as a community. And like Mrs. Amaral said earlier, her and I actually just had this conversation this afternoon. Our main goal this year is to really partner with families to support our students. This is a critical year. We get ready for high school. We want to support them. We want to support you as parents and families. Please reach out. We want to work together because when we work together, it just has great outcomes for our kids. So reach out, talk to us, get involved. We love to have parent volunteers. Come to our PTA meetings. We talk about a lot of these events. Middle school is a weird time. You know, parent involvement with PTA is big in the early years in elementary schools. And then at the high school, we see it resurge with PGP or post-graduation party and fundraisers for each class. We really want to get that bigger sense of community happening at our middle school. And we can do it this year with eighth grade. Great group of kids. We want to celebrate them. Help out when you can. Reach out when you have questions. We will start taking deposits as soon as possible. We ask that students, if they do come into school with cash or checks, bring them right to the main office. The secretaries or whoever's there will support writing receipts, making sure that payments are in envelopes marked with student names so that it can be recorded with accuracy. And we look forward to a great year and a great trip.
Yep. And I just want to reinforce, stay tuned. There's a lot of opportunities for parent volunteers. And sometimes as we get our students into middle school, we think that they're a little bit more independent and it's time to be a little hands off. But we're finding that the more involved that we are together, as a team, the students are more successful. So if they see you in the building, they know you're coming in to volunteer for a book fair or for picture day or for one of the promotion activities. It kind of sets the tone that you're really involved and that you are wanting to know what's going on at school, and they get really excited about it. So stay tuned. You'll get a lot of information this year. There's a lot of things. It goes very fast. It's crazy, but it's almost November. And before you know it, we're going to be talking about promotion, and you're going to be like, what just happened? High school is like in your horizon. It's a little scary, I know, but we're just going to have a really successful rest of this 8th grade.
I forgot I had this volunteer slide because we didn't use this one with the kids today, but you segued that real nice. As a side note too, I know that tonight was P-TECH's open house, so some of you are probably viewing this after the fact because you attended. Miss Simone will be in contact. We actually are working the last couple of days to set up some visits from high schools, Norwalk High, P-TECH, CGS, McMahon. They all kind of come and do presentations. There's some lotteries involved. There's some decisions to be made as an 8th grader about your next steps. So please reach out to us, especially if you have questions with that. Miss Simone is a wealth of knowledge for those things. But again, those events will be happening in meetings taking place in December. As soon as we know about any open houses or things like that, we will do our best to communicate those as well so that students can attend if interested. We appreciate your time tonight. We know that families are busy. Our nights are busy. As you can see, we have people just burst in at any moment. But we're always available, and we do really appreciate you taking the time to work with us this year to provide these opportunities for the kids. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Golding. And thank you, Ms. Golding, for all your hard work, because I know that
thank you.
It only happens because, we have to work hard to get it there. So any questions, just reach out to either one of us. We are happy to support you, answer any questions, and really just, like I said, have a great rest of this 8th grade.
I do see just a quick question in the chat. I did post last night about the Sportathon over the weekend in Dr. Reynolds' blast. There will be more information to families specifically about how your employers can do that match. That's something that the company sends us. It's a different document. So we will share that over the weekend. Look for that in Dr. Reynolds' blast. Again, thanks everybody for their time tonight. We look forward to a wonderful year, and we'll see you soon.
Good night.
Good night.